Hello, I'm Fuzzjitsu. Welcome to my channel. There's not much here at the moment, but hopefully there will be in future. So let's talk about the subject, as you can see in the title, fake and counterfeit copies of Pandemic Legacy. Now, if you're new to the hobby like me, well, relatively new, I got into it about 4 years ago max. I was really completely unaware that there was such a thing as fake copies of board games. So, but apparently that is a thing, and I was very much upset to find out that my version of Pandemic Legacy, bought in a brick and mortar retailer here in the UK, is actually a fake one. So, what I want to do is I'm going to show you how to find out if your copy is fake or if it's genuine. I'm going to show you around my version of Pandemic Legacy, and hopefully you'll be able to spot some of the key differences. I'll also put in the links below. So a link to a thread on Board Game Geek, which will show you some images and some discussion about the fakes there, and also a great thread on Reddit, which will also link you to some image files that you can look at to really see for yourself the differences between a real, genuine version of Pandemic Legacy and a fake version of Pandemic Legacy. Hopefully you find this video useful in determining whether or not yours is a genuine copy. If you think it's not, then I very much encourage you to go back to your retailer and ask for either a refund or a replacement. And yeah, let's take a look. Okay, so here's my copy of Pandemic Legacy. Like I said, it was very much a counterfeit copy, and I only discovered this after one of my friends noticed after I bought this version that it looked a little bit cheap and tacky on the inside. So I did some digging around, had a look online, and it turns out that there is actually quite a large issue with counterfeit board games being printed and distributed by Chinese manufacturers. So there's actually an article as well, which I'll link below, which shows even the Asmodee, who are the parent company of Z-Man Games, I believe, even Asmodee having issues with it. So anyway, let's take a look at the box. As you can see, the box is it's very matte and it has this peculiar texture on it. So that's one of the first telltale signs that you've got yourself a counterfeit copy. It's also, the colours are a little bit faded, and like I said, the texture is very, very pronounced. If you feel it and run your fingers across it, you'll find it's much more matte finish. On the actual original, or a real version of Pandemic Legacy, it's much shinier, a bit more of a glossy finish, much smoother as well. So if you take a look at the back as well, it's very a little bit faded, and another telltale sign is you can't really see the text very clearly on these character cards there. So on the original, you can actually read that absolutely clearly, and trust me, it's not just my shoddy camera work. Actually looking at the back of the box, the wordage isn't particularly clear, and also the wordage across the rest of the back as well is a little bit faded. Okay, so let's take a look inside the box, and watch as I struggle to try and get that open. Any second now. Okay, so another telltale giveaway that really alerted me. There's no official Z-Man Games or Asmodee Games leaflets in here. Usually in every other Z-Man game or production, there's like an advertising leaflet advertising all their other games and other things that are available. So that's another giveaway as well. The rulebook as well has very faded colours, so it's sort of, everything looks a little bit washed out. I've got the original copy of Pandemic, not the Legacy one, this Pandemic, and it's much brighter, and everything's much clearer as well. Also, I've heard that there may be some rules differences in some of the counterfeit copies, as they may have older versions of the rules that they've printed from. If you notice the sticker sheet here, I mean, yeah, I appreciate there may be spoilers for some of you, so I'll put a tag at the beginning of the video. But the sticker sheet is actually slightly too big for the box. So that's another giveaway. If your sticker sheet doesn't fit in the box correctly, then you've probably got yourself a counterfeit copy. So if you have a look, if I try and fit it into the into the shot here, you'll notice it's lined up at the bottom and it's slightly too big at the top. So that's another way to take a look and see if there's an issue there. Also, that sticker sheet is punched through very, very deep. If you flip it over, it's cut right through. So that's another little giveaway sign. Some of the more obvious ways that you can tell are actually inside the box itself. Again, no real spoilers here. Just going to open it up, and you're going to take a look at the board. The board apparently is quite similar. So It is a little washed out. So that's all I've noticed from looking at comparison pictures with a genuine copy. Is my version is pretty washed out, which is much the same as the rest of the content. Another telltale sign: you get these very cheap, very thin baggies. Some are mismatching. I mean, I think in this copy here there are 2 or 3 different types of baggies. They're very thin, and also the tokens themselves. If I just open this up, you'll see on the back there's some. Well, actually, if you see on the front, the printing is sort of off center on some of these, so which is a little bit odd. And if you look at the back of them, when I say you'll see some imperfections and some indents. So that's also, if you look at an actual real version of Pandemic Legacy, there won't be any of this. It'll be centered, and also the backs will be nice and smooth. There won't be any issues like that on the back of these tokens, which I think are molding imperfections. I mean, I'm not completely au fait with the manufacturing process, but that's what reading the threads has led me to believe. So we're going to take a look at the research centers. And the research centers are sort of weird, slightly melted, squashed versions of an actual one. So again, lots of imperfections in the molding. So you can't really see very well on the camera, but there's a few chips in there. Again, at the bottom, we have those mold imperfections. So that's another way you can tell that you have a slightly, well, I say slightly, you have a completely counterfeit copy of Pandemic Legacy. Taking a look at the cubes, this is probably the most obvious way of telling that yours is a counterfeit. The cubes in actual Pandemic are smooth, they are almost rounded around the edges, but if you notice these counterfeit ones, there's lots of imperfections, lots of bits hanging off the cubes. They're generally of very poor quality anyway. They feel very brittle in the hand, and also they're very, very sharp. If you hold them in the hand, they're literally sharp in the hand. So that's probably the most obvious way of finding out that you have a counterfeit copy of Pandemic Legacy. Apparently there are also issues with the card stock and the quality of the cards. I can't speak to that. I've not opened them up in this particular copy that I have myself, because I'm intending to take mine back to the retailer who sold it to me for a refund or to exchange it for another game. So what do you think? Do you have a copy of Pandemic Legacy? Am I going crazy? Is counterfeit a real issue in board gaming? This is very much the first I've heard of it. Like I said, I'm quite new to the hobby. Am I overreacting? I mean, I don't think I am. I mean, it's an expensive board game. I think I paid nearly, £65, something like that. I expect the real deal. And I also want the money to go directly to the publisher of the board game. I don't want to support them because I enjoy the board game, and they need to get rewarded for it. So a little bit disappointed that the copy that I've got is a counterfeit, but no harm, no foul. I'm going to go back to the shop that sold it. I mean, he was very surprised, but there are quite a lot in the UK supply line. Amazon actually had, I think, the largest amount of fakes. There's lots of reports of people getting fraudulent and counterfeit copies on Amazon. So if you do get it online, do make sure you take a look and see if you find any of the same issues that I found in my copy. So I hope this video was useful to you. If you have any questions, comments or feedback, stick it in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. Cheers.